Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Big Apple Hockey. There's two of us right now, but don't worry, Anthony will be here soon enough. And Phil, did anything interesting happen in the last 24 hours?
Jacob Trouba pulled a Ralph Wiggum impression.
Yeah,
went into glass head first. Vincent Trocheck pissed off a bunch of people in Carolina. A bunch of Pittsburgh sports writers got real pissy about Jacob Trouba again, which has been going on for 2 years now. So that's really not big news, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch of Canes fans decided that they wanted to go and be real classy on Twitter. That was real fun too. But this actually is the most important of all. The Rally Bucky or the Rally Bucket.
The Rally Bucky happened, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Well, hi, everybody. And I, of course, am your host, Marc Williams. Although the Rally Bucky was blocking that one. All right. Phil and I both on the same page, but a little bit late. And boom, there we go. And, of course, the host of the final buzzer, Mr. John Volkowski.
Late buzzer last night. That was a fun stream, too. A lot of people in on it. A lot of good hockey talk, a lot of questions. Sorry if we missed some of those, but that was like rapid fire question flying all over the damn place. So, again, we apologize if we didn't get to everybody, but glad you were all joined us. I know there were some new faces involved in there. Yeah. Marc is playing a tweet that is doing numbers for him.
Yeah. So because Phil, look, they said it themselves in the chat. I got to go with this of how many times have you watched the Vincent Trocheck goal?
Quite a few times.
50 times?
More.
100 times?
More.
200 times?
More.
And I watched it a lot of that as well. I mean, a bunch.
Yeah,
and it was great to have Matt and Evan, both from Ranger Central, on. It is also a stream that is doing pretty well. If you haven't watched it, watch it right now. Breaking down last night's Game 2 victory. And Phil, that's a lead in right there for the A block, where we're going to go over to and there it is. We're going to go over to talk about that. And, of course, everybody, Big Apple Hockey Trucker hats are available, as well as the shirts. You get them in the link description. Seat Geek powers the A block, which use the promo code Big Apple Hockey, $20 off your first order. And look for that man right there. Plenty of times that he'll be on after games. If he's not on, I'm on the next day. Maybe I could be on during the afternoons. It's hard for that. But Phil, the New York Rangers defeated the Carolina Hurricanes 4-3 in double overtime. And that wasn't the only comeback last night. More on that in a few minutes. They now lead the series 2-0. Phil, just what are your thoughts right now on the Rangers, and how is it, and what do they need to do specifically in Carolina to try to close the series out quicker?
Just as I said, for this game, it's really weathering the storm. I see the questions about Trouba's hit. We're going to get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a minute.
I promise we're going to get to that very, very shortly. But I just think that great teams find ways to win games. This team has found ways to win games all year. And to me, I have to go. I have to always look at Peter Laviolette. I look at Peter Laviolette and the preparations that he made for this team. And like I said last night, this team started making adjustments even before this series even started. Peter Laviolette had them practicing man-on-man defense. They didn't play man-on-man defense all year. For anybody who's been paying attention, that's not how they play. Carolina plays man-to-man. They like chaos. They like free-flowing, wide-open hockey in the offensive zone. The Rangers, that's not how they play. So for Laviolette to make that adjustment before this series even started showed me how locked in he actually was. I think they need to just continue what they're doing. I did a breakdown of the goals that Carolina has scored in this series. They have 6 goals. 3 of those have come on deflections. 2 of those were defensive breakdowns. One of them was an absurd bounce that you'll likely rarely ever see. I challenge somebody to find a clip of a deflection going in the way that puck deflected off of Alexei Lafreniere's stick in Game 1 for their first goal.
Yeah.
Because that's not a deflection that you see where it goes down and then up like that. It's not something you see. The Rangers need to continue to do what they're doing on the penalty kill because they're stifling Carolina just the way they did 2 years ago, and Carolina's having a ton of trouble with that penalty kill. Whether it's they're keeping their feet, whether they're not moving their feet enough, the puck isn't moving quick enough, whatever the Rangers are doing to get into those shot lanes as quickly as they are and force them to keep the pucks from the outside, they need to keep doing that. And yes, Dante, good job, Rangers. Welcome to the show. I would definitely remember if I saw a Dallas Stars profile picture. So welcome to the show. You guys are – I thought you guys were going to win that game last night between Dallas and Colorado. So I'm actually surprised that Colorado came away with that win. But, they just need to continue to doing what they're doing on the special teams because 5-on-5, they're right there with them. Nothing about this series says that Carolina is outplaying them at 5-on-5. I don't care what the analytics say. They're shot-based, and again, shot-based analytics lack context. Carolina's firing all these shots from all over the place. And yes, some of them are going in because they're getting deflected and stuff. Yeah, three of them have gone in due to deflections. But again, you can clean that up. Just the defense has to tighten up in front. They have to make sure that they're getting the sticks because if Igor Shesterkin is seeing the shot, he's stopping it. And the worst thing for a team is to play against a goaltender. I'm going to add Anthony in here. The worst thing you can do is play against a goaltender that you know is going to stop every single puck that he sees. That's what Igor Shesterkin is doing right now. Like when Tony DeAngelo fired that wrist shot, he literally scooped it up and just said, "That's all you got." That's what that type of reaction was. And that just goes to show you where Igor Shesterkin is at mentally. That mental reset that Jonathan Quick was able to help them provide this season has done dividends, massive dividends for Igor Shesterkin. And it's great because I've questioned this leadership group in the past, but the one thing I will say, and I don't know about Blake Wheeler's impact, although I will say from what I've heard, they love and respect him as a leader in the locker room. Jonathan Quick, for him to go to Vincent Trocheck and just say, don't go rogue, keep doing what you're doing and you're going to win, that's the veteran presence that they've lacked for a long time. Because you got to remember, this guy's been to the top of the mountain twice, and he's won a Conn Smythe going to the top of that mountain. So Jonathan Quick, I this tweet did numbers somehow. I don't even know how because I think it's a stupid tweet, honestly. But I said that I never thought that I would ever utter the words that I love you, Jonathan Quick. And somehow it's got over I think 1,200 likes or something like that. Unreal. Jonathan Quick, just a lot of love and respect right now for that because he helped calm this room down quite a bit.
Anthony, you look at the other side. Carolina played a couple great games, and they didn't have a road win in New York. It's clear they're here for a reason and that they're one of the best teams in the NHL. What does Carolina need to do, in your opinion, to make sure that they can even the series?
I think it's as simple as stay out of the penalty box. I mean, in the Islanders series, it was the Islanders, if they had a chance, they had to stay out of the box. The Canes' power play was really good. Now it's the same thing here. The Hurricanes need to stay out of the box because the Rangers' power play is just scary good. I mean, the Rangers have scored 8 goals this series. 4 of them have been on the power play. And that's been the difference in a lot of the games. The Hurricanes have to stay out of the penalty box and play them at 5-on-5 because I think that's really the Hurricanes' only chance of trying to even up the series and eventually winning it is if they could play at 5-on-5. the Hurricanes, who are known to have a great penalty kill, has been struggling. And Phil alluded to that after the Islanders series, that the Canes penalty kill wasn't great against the Islander power play that was really mediocre towards the end of the year. And the Rangers power play is night and day difference. So if the Canes can just try to stay out of the penalty box, I mean, they're going home now. We all know that they're a good home team. They have a chance to even up the series. But the other and more obvious thing is, if they're going to win this series, they have to find a way to win a game in MSG. Before the series started, Mike Maniscalco, who covers the Hurricanes, was on NHL Sirius XM radio, and I was just listening to it, and he mentioned how MSG has basically been a house of horrors for the Hurricanes. They haven't really won there. When they played in 2022, the home team won every game that series up until Game 7 when the Rangers finally broke that trend. So, so even if the Hurricanes, win the next 2 games at PNC, which, I mean, isn't out of the realm of possibility, it's not going to matter much if they can't find a way to get one on the road. So, for the Hurricanes now, it's their backs are against the wall. The only thing they have on their side right now is that they're going back home, and they have to make the most out of that. But, the Rangers power play is really, really good. So for them, they just have to try to stay out of the box the best they can. Other than that, I mean, they're not playing bad. I mean, the Hurricanes are playing solid hockey. They're not a pushover. They aren't going to roll over. They're going to keep coming at you, and I think they even play even more suffocating and aggressive when they're at home and they have that crowd behind them. It really gets them going. So we'll see what Game 3 brings, but right now, the Rangers have them pinned up against the wall here.
Yeah, Anthony, I got to agree with you on a lot of that, because as much as every Ranger fan is right now already thinking about the conference finals, they really got to step back and start thinking one game at a time, because this is not – first off, respect your opponent, no matter who it is.
Absolutely.
But this is one of the best teams in the NHL for a reason. And their only problem last year is they ran into a buzzsaw called the Florida Panthers. And I think that very much last night could have the same effect as Sergei Bobrovsky in games 1 and 2 versus them last year, that it just becomes a mental thing. You start squeezing sawdust out of the stick. There's one guy that's not, and that's Jake Gensel, who had 2 goals last night. He was absolutely incredible. But I think
one thing. Sorry to cut you off. Just kind of popped into my mind, but
go right ahead.
One thing I find ironic is that during the series against the Islanders, their players looked like they were in the Olympics in swimming, and they were taking dives. They were just like, Lee touched a guy, he'd fall over. And now the Hurricanes are kind of accusing the Rangers of diving, and I just think that's ironic, considering the Islander fans called out the Canes players for going down easily in round 1, and now the Hurricanes are complaining about it. And I guess to that I say they got a dose of their own medicine, because I just think it's funny they're complaining about something that they were saying, oh no, that we weren't doing that in round 1. No. But it's
It's funny because I said that the Carolina Hurricanes put on a performance that peak Greg Louganis would be proud of, with his 84 and 88 Olympic gold medals in diving. So yeah, that's how bad the Canes were in that series.
And a matter of fact, you could say most of them are like a Van Halen album, Diver Down. So
I like that
reference. But Phil, you also got to look at it, because I think one of the things Anthony and I were talking about is, because you got guys that are complaining right now on Twitter, whether or not it's Aaron Ward or it's Paul Bissonnette. They're saying that Adam Fox is doing some diving. Yes, holy diver. That's always an obvious one. And even if that's not true, do you think that could have long-term effects? If he gets that reputation, is he going to lose calls?
I don't know. He got called for a bunch of interference calls throughout the season where his incidental contact. So I don't know what exact calls he was getting in his favor. I mean, Jake Gensel punched him in the face. Like, you don't do that. Like, you want to shove him? Okay, the refs are going to let you shove him. Unless you don't stop when they pull you away and you go back after them again, they're going to let you have the shoves. But guys like Svechnikov, guys like Gensel, these guys can get undisciplined, and that's been a problem. It shot them in the foot 2 years ago when they faced them. So it's crazy to think that the Hurricanes are calling out diving when they did the same thing in the previous round, and their undisciplined penalties are really what cost them. Here's a better idea, Carolina. Instead of crying about everything, why don't you focus on the fact that the Rangers are 4 for 9 on the power play in 9 attempts, almost 50%. We're just short of it. The Hurricanes are 0 for 10.
Including 2 of them in overtime.
In overtime. You got 2 calls in overtime as opposed to the Rangers 1. And don't even talk to me about the call that the Rangers started with, because that ended in the third period. That call came in the third. So,
and I'm glad you said that, so I don't have to bring up more than 2 points. But by the way, the Rangers penalty killing right now, they're averaging about 1.2 shots per penalty kill. So if you're on the power play and you're not getting any shots, then nothing's going to be happening with you. Back to an incident that happened last night, though. Svechnikov basically took a run at Shesterkin, trips him up, and you saw it kind of in the first period. I mean, Igor was kind of angry. He kind of was a little bit unfocused. He didn't want to go out of the net as much until the end of the first period. Calmed down, went back in the second period, was electric in the second period. It's one of those things of, if Carolina is going to start getting physical with them right now, if I'm Freddie Anderson, I have to have a talk with Svechnikov or anybody that's going to try that, because it's going to be, hey guys, that's all well and good. I'm going to get hit because of you. So you better stop on that one. And as David's saying right now, the cross check on Shea had to be called. Imagine the outrage.
You know what's funny about this is that there are a lot of people saying that, how can a referee call a penalty in double overtime? And, Biz and Ryan Whitney called it out, and you expect that because, they dislike the Rangers, and Rear Admiral, he's another one. But Marc Messier actually, too, on the postgame, Marc Messier mentioned that it was a weak call. He didn't like it. And obviously, he's a Ranger guy. So I thought that was interesting that he laid that out, because it does have some credence to it. In a double overtime game, it's hard for a referee to make a decision like that, to call it or not, because if he calls it, people are going to say he's deciding the outcome of the game. If he lets it go, and then let's say the Hurricanes scored on that play, then there would have been outrage on the Rangers side. So I think either side would have had a huge problem with how that played out. But I wouldn't want to be the referee in that situation, because that's a tough spot to be in. It's a tough spot to be in.
I'll say this. Messier, and Marc Messier is my second favorite player of all time behind Wayne Gretzky. But Messier comes from a position of, he's done that several times before, and it didn't get called in his day. So I think Messier has to understand that the game is different, and 2, the levity of the situation. Mark's been in many high-pressure games. Like, you got to understand that. Not only that, but Dave Jackson came right out and said right away, no issue with that call. It's a penalty every time. You take the guy out. He's not expecting it. It takes him out. It prevents him from advancing the puck, stops the play, and you can go the other way with it. And I do agree with David here. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't, but that's a penalty. And you know what? If it was called the other way, I'd understand it. I wouldn't like it, but I'd at least understand it.
Well, the other side of that also is, the one thing we know about the refereeing in this playoff is that's consistent is their inconsistency. And the other problem also is, if you don't call it right there, never mind what you just said, Ant, where Shea goes on the breakaway, wins the game. How about they just got off a second power play in overtime? They're putting the whistles away in overtime. And if they don't do it, it's showing a little bit more favoritism the other way. And that was kind of a big factor. I thought there were a couple different times where that was really kind of, there were some there were some penalties. I'm like, how do you call that, but not that? Overall, the refereeing is fine. It's good. But when you start breaking it down, you go, why is one a penalty, one not? Now, by the way, so since we got you right now, Anthony, the Trouba mishit on Marty Necas, and we're going to get into that. Everybody's up in arms about it. Oh, it's just another classic time of Trouba trying to take somebody's head off. First, give me your thoughts about the hit, and also, is a little bit of Schadenfreude watching him face plant into the glass in your case?
Well, so I mean, basically the missed hit, because you say hit, but he didn't hit him.
Oh, he missed. Yeah, the miss hit.
He missed, yeah. I think two things can be true at the same time. First, I think that Marty Necas kind of like losing his footing. Right before made it look a little worse. There's no doubt. But I think on the other hand, there also is some evidence that points to that Trouba was looking to inflict some pain there as well. I think both of those things are fair to say. But I'm not going to sit here and cry about it if I was on either side, because ultimately he missed, and it ended up being really a non-issue. But I think both sides have a case there, because again, I think you could take parts of it from both and say, yeah, I think that's what was going on there.
Phil, what are your thoughts on it?
It's so funny because I saw a clip of Greg Wyshynski, who is probably the biggest Ranger troll of them all. If you think Spit and Chicklets trolls the Rangers, Wyshynski's the worst, the absolute worst. He will go out of his way to make sure that he doesn't give them credit. And I'm pretty sure he was the one that had Chris Kreider scoring 35 points and Panarin scoring less than a point per game this year.
Yeah.
So, Wyshynski even said that people calling for suspensions and stuff like that are over the top. And him and Jeff Marek kind of blasted the Pittsburgh and Carolina media for it. My thing is that there's contact with the skates between Trouba and Necas when Necas bails. Or bails, falls, whatever you want to call it. I can still tell you right now that there's some sort of accidental play there going on. I think Trouba also, Trouba looked like he woke up and that's every day for Trouba. Sorry. Anybody who thinks otherwise, it's every day for Trouba. He wakes up trying to steamroll somebody. But he lost balance. He tripped, he fell. And you see people online, he managed to get his elbow up because he was going to be able to get his hands up in time to save himself there.
Yeah.
It just shows how little some people actually understand about the physics of the sport and playing it. Because at that speed, in that tight, there is no way you are going to have the reaction time to be able to save yourself. He's lucky he didn't break his damn neck.
Yeah, and I think I've heard the term Wile E. Coyote for him a lot with that. And it first off, the fact that everybody's okay makes it amusing. And it's kind of funny because Nate just blowing a tire, he was going to get leveled right there. And everybody will go, well, whatever happened to physicality in hockey? Well, it's right there. And it was going to be a clean hit. I think he was trying to brace himself. The elbow was coming up though after Nate just fell down. I think that's a little bit more of a reflex, but we can argue that. But I think my partner over there said it, that you know what, you got the Pittsburgh writers complaining about it. You had Matt Cook on your team for years. Shut up, and you condoned it. So.
Matt Cook slicing Erik Karlsson's Achilles tendon. Brooks Orpik's knee-on-knee hit on Derek Stepan that led to John Tortorella's rant that he got fined $250,000 for a year after Mario Lemieux verbally eviscerated the Islanders and got nothing for it. Chris Letang's blatant two-hand slash to Victor Stahlberg's face. Sidney Crosby almost chopping off Marc Mathot's finger, leading to them not calling anything on him, but changing the way the entire slashing penalty is called when it comes to slashes to the hands. Malkin's stick work over various years. Malkin slew foot on Paul Mara in Game 4 of the
Well, we got a lot of that. I got the.
Yeah.
I don't want to completely eviscerate and get rid of any Pittsburgh fans for all time. So.
I get everything you're saying with Pittsburgh. I'm confused though. What happened with Pittsburgh that we're talking about them right now?
Their writers are basically going off and crying about it. Dijon Kovacevic or whatever his name is, who has been crying about the Rangers for 2 years now, has been started writing on these articles, and this other Taylor Haase or whatever her name is started writing something like, take a seat, sit down. You got to have Sidney Crosby, Slewfoot, Ryan Callahan, and Brendan Dubinsky in back-to-back games in a home-and-home series in 2011, and you guys didn't say anything about that. So shut up. You have no room you have no leg to stand on. You have no room to talk. Shut up.
Well, we're not going to, because we have a lot more that we have to cover. First, just want to give you guys a quick read on, if you're looking for a new car, go to My Car Guy and then tell them Big Apple Hockey sent you. I just went through this process today, getting a new car right now for my fiance, and it was great, very easy. And there's the ad thing I had on there for him. I'm matter of fact getting a Nissan Altima very soon. So all my leases came up. You should always want all your leases to come up right as you're getting married, because you have to do all that. Just more expenses. Guys, go there. Tell them Big Apple Hockey sent you. If you want, ask for my boy Julian. He's right there. Okay, let's continue on talking about the NHL playoffs. Anthony, thoughts on Colorado's amazing 3-0 overtime win? Well, 4-3 win, OT comeback.
What kind of surprises me there is that, the Stars are a good defensive team. So for a team like that to cough up a 3-0 lead, albeit against a high octane Avalanche team, that was surprising, because this isn't like the Seattle Kraken blowing a 3-0 lead to the Avalanche. This is a really good team in the Dallas Stars. And a 3-0 lead in the playoffs is a lead that you should hold on to. The Islanders can relate to that, but it was just surprising. I mean, that's the best way I could say it. I thought when I saw Dallas up 3-0, I said to myself, well, they're going to go up 1-0 in this series, but Colorado didn't give up. They stuck with their game plan. And once they kind of broke through, you saw the shift in the momentum. So kudos to the Avalanche for keep battling back and getting in that game. But this series right now, this particular series, out of all the matchups that are going on right now, I think this might end up being the longest. I think this could be a 7-game series. They're closely matched, and it's going to be a good one. But if Dallas loses, though, I mean, this is going to be a game they're going to look back on and say, well, this is where we shot ourselves in the foot, because when you're up 3-0 in the playoffs, especially in the later rounds, you got to hold on and get the win. You just simply have to. But unfortunately, they weren't. Now they got to recollect themselves and come back with a strong game too. But I'm confident that Dallas team has a lot of skill, a lot of depth. I think they're going to come out with a spark up there, and try to even up this series, because they're going to be mad, and Colorado obviously is going to be looking to take a stranglehold by getting another win and then going back home. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I was real surprised how they blew that lead for sure.
Phil, what do you think about that?
Did not expect that collapse. Did not. I didn't like the defense from Heiskanen on that winner by Miles Wood. Really didn't. I thought Heiskanen's a great skater. He could have gotten in front of him and he could have cut off the lane, and he just did not move his feet. I think he was caught flat-footed. I think that I think the Stars need more from Ben and Sagan in this series. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, you're going to look. I think Wyatt Johnston's a star to making. I said it last night. I just think he's a stud. I think he may end up being their best player when someday. I think he'll be better than Robertson. I think this is going to be a guy that's going to be their number one guy that they look to. And I like
the best player all playoffs.
Yes, he absolutely has. He has that it factor. He has that it factor. You're starting to see it. Same way you're starting to see it with Lafreniere, who's over a point per game in the playoffs. You're starting to see that it factor from him. I do think that they need more from guys like Sagan and Ben, because those guys need to start stepping up and giving them the supplemental scoring that this team is going to need against a team like Colorado. The deeper in the playoffs you get, and Vegas and Dallas, they just drew it. Just terrible luck. Like you finish second in the NHL, first in the West, and then you draw the defending cap circumvention Vegas Stanley Cup defending champions. I can't even believe that they got that. And then for their troubles, for disposing them, they have to face one of Colorado or Winnipeg. Great. And it ends up being Colorado. So it's a big problem for them, but they have to come out flying next game, and they have to tighten things up, because you cannot get a 3-0 lead and blow it like that. Like, I can understand maybe winning that game 3-2 in regulation or something. Understandable, Colorado's going to score. They have a ton of talent. But Dallas, for a team that was really good defensively for most of the year and has a really good defensive corps as a unit, it just wasn't the effort that they wanted. Peter DeBoer is really going to have to kind of cram down on them and really make sure that they cross their T's and they dot their I's next game, because Colorado now has a ton of momentum after scoring 4 unanswered goals to win that game. And then once you get guys like McKinnon and McCarr and Rantanen going, it's hard to stop that train. It really is. But if you can get shots on Georgiev and get another early lead and then really open up on that and maybe kind of blow that game up a little bit, maybe you can get it in his head and get him pulled. So that's what Dallas has to do. They have to come out real fast next game.
Well, Dallas is resilient, because after all, they lost the first 2 games at home versus the defending Stanley Cup champions, and they were able to come back and win that series. So we'll start with that one. This was a little bit of tired legs. I mean, everybody wants to talk about, wouldn't you keep on playing, or would you rather have the rest? Well, Colorado didn't start strong. That was their thing. And, Nils Lundqvist,
Yanni Hakanpää.
Although it's a K, not the Q, we'll put the gift for you right there.
Hakanpää is actually a big loss for them. There is word that he is probably going to come back at some point in this series, and that would be big for them.
Yeah, and I mean, look, hey, I don't get enough time to throw him some credit. I say his numbers have to improve. Alexander Georgiev played a hell of a game last night. His last 40 minutes of that game, and the save that he made in overtime wasn't the greatest save on Sagan, but it was a really good save that he had to get across on it, and he was able to get there. Puck's a little bit higher. Maybe that's in the net. Hard for Sagan to do as a righty in that situation. Yeah. And Phil, let's go right back to you. The Florida Panthers playing tonight against the Boston Bruins. Bruins lead 1-0 in the series. Same kind of situation, except the Bruins were able to take it and score 6 unanswered against Florida the other night. What do you think is going to happen tonight?
I think Florida comes back and wins this game. I just don't see them letting up 4 or 5 goals again. I don't. I know that Bobrovsky ended up getting exposed at the end of his playoff run, and you start to wonder, how much steam he has, because last year was the same thing. He got hot at the right time in the first round. Alex Lyon got them there, and everybody was talking about the job that Alex Lyon did, but Bobrovsky came in, and he ended up orchestrating that Cinderella run. They were down 3-1 in the series, and they found a way to beat Boston. I honestly think that Florida comes back tonight. They win this game. I think they shore up things defensively, and they respond. Another thing I wonder, is Sam Bennett going to play in this series? Because that's a big loss for them if he doesn't come back.
Anthony?
I'm not really worried about Florida, despite kind of getting their doors blown off in Game 1. I mean, the Bruins, credit to them for picking up an impressive victory in Game 1. But the reality of the situation is if Joseph Woll doesn't get hurt in Game 6 against Toronto and he plays that Game 7, the Maple Leafs probably eliminate the Bruins in that Game 7, because Woll was playing really, really well. And then Samsonov, while he played well in that Game 7, that tying goal he let up was real bad. And I think if Wall had played that game, the Bruins wouldn't even have been there. But yet here they are. But the point is that I think that even though the Bruins got an impressive win in game one, I think the Panthers are still the much better team, much deeper team, much more talented team. And I think the Panthers are going to bounce back. With that said, though, belief is a powerful thing. And, the Bruins are feeling good about themselves. And, if they pick up, go out there and maybe score the first goal or two goals of the game, feel good about themselves. They're still a really good defensive team and they lock things down. Then, then maybe it becomes a real severe doubt for Florida and they're facing a 2-0 hole. But I just think the Panthers are too good of a team to lose to a Bruins in the 7-game series. So we'll see what happens tonight. I mean, if the Panthers can get back Bennett, as Phil alluded to, I know Ryan Lomberg was out too. If they can get him back, he brings a lot of sandpaper and jam to the game. And then there's Bobrovsky. I mean, he's been real good all playoffs. So you could just chalk game one up as a stinker. If he could play like he has been, I think Florida's going to be just fine.
The one thing I'll say before you jump in, Mark, is that Jeremy Swayman was phenomenal the other night. He was incredible Monday night. So if Florida in last year, at least to me, was playing against goalies that weren't playing on the same level as Bobrovsky. Like when Bobrovsky came in and took over, he was playing at an elite, like God tier type level of goaltending. He was he was almost unbeatable. Swayman is giving Boston that. He's been really good when he's been in. So this is going to be a harder hill to climb for Florida than it was last year, who faced a lesser version of Swayman and Ullmark. And then they faced Freddie Anderson and Ranta and Kochetkov and that trio in Carolina that just really wasn't that good last year. So this is going to be a lot harder for Florida this time around, if you ask me.
I've been talking about this the entire season, even going into last year. The Bruins needed to make a decision. They didn't make a decision in that. And Anthony, you're right, because belief is a great thing. And now they believe they have a goaltender that can take them there. And they anointed him. He's not looking over his shoulder. He's not thinking, this is my game. Don't worry, Linus is playing the next one. No, they're playing. He's the one making saves. I think this is great for the Bruins. And we'll see if that continues the success. Because when you're a goalie and you know that's your net, you don't have to worry about, if I make a mistake right here, what's going to happen next. And Anthony, let's finish this out, because let's get the bar talk, because I got a good Islander topic I believe you think is going to be right there. But in the Edmonton Canucks series, or the Oilers Canucks series, I don't know why I put the city on one and the name on the other one. But, and here you go. In this year, including the playoffs, Bobrovsky 0-3-2 with a 341 goals against and a 688 save percentage against Boston. That could be where the regular season goes right over, and good stat to quote right there, Mr. LaRocco. Or I think you typed that one, right, Anthony?
Yeah, that was him. That wasn't me.
Well, I mean, I want to make sure I give credit to the right person. But Anthony, so Edmonton and the Canucks, I think there was an arena dispute, and that's why, or a problem with the scheduling. That's why they're starting so late. But they're gonna start the series tonight. Thatcher Demko, they're saying he's ruled out until game 4. Who do you got in the series, and what are your thoughts on it?
I think it has potential to be a pretty good series. I'm going to say the Oilers. I think they're going to take it. I think it could go 6 games or so. I mean, Vancouver, and granted, Nashville's not nearly as explosive as Edmonton is, but they got out of the first round with missing Demko. I don't know if they'll be able to do the same against the Oilers, but I like the Canucks better in the physicality brand. Also, their defense. I like their forwards too, maybe overall in terms of the depth. It's just the Oilers have the higher end skill, obviously, with McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman. So I'll give the Oilers the edge. But you can't count the Canucks out with the way they play with their forwards. I mean, you saw against Nashville, they had their backs up against the wall a couple times and they rallied back. So I think this has the makings of an interesting series as well. But I think ultimately the Oilers come out of this round.
Phil?
So much to factor in here. Anthony talked about the top end talent of the Oilers, but Vancouver's depth is significantly better.
Yes.
Vancouver's defensive corps is significantly better than Edmonton's. Edmonton probably has the advantage in goal, but how much of an advantage is it that they have? The other thing I look about is this right here is Elias Pettersson has just not been good in this playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's going to need to be 10,000 times better than he was in that first round against Nashville. They were able to beat Saros, who is one of the best goalies in hockey and was playing very well. I'd imagine they'll be able to beat Stuart Skinner. The one thing that I worry about for Vancouver is how much possession time are they going to be able to have when they have to face McDavid and Draisaitl, and it's like nearly impossible to get the puck from those two. I also wonder how Vancouver's defense is going to be able to handle somebody like Hyman creating havoc in the crease while McDavid runs around with the puck and does whatever the hell he wants, because that's just what McJesus does. But is this the series that McDavid finally takes over? McDavid scored 2 points per game in a series. What is taking over if that's not taking over? Like, this is the best guy of the generation, and his playoff points per game is insane. He's approaching Gretzky levels of points per game in the playoffs. So I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Vancouver may not have an answer for McDavid and Draisaitl, but I also feel like Edmonton may not have an answer for their depth and their defense. You're looking at what, Nurse and Ekholm, and who else on their defense really scares you? I mean, I like the Henrique addition, but I don't know. I hate doing this to to Edmonton, because of the fact that I'm a huge McDavid fan. I think he's just the greatest, but I got to go Vancouver in 7 here. I just think that at the end of the day, it comes down to depth. And, the deeper you get into the playoffs, the more that you're going to have to rely on your depth. And I think the structure, the depth, the speed, and the physicality, I think favor Vancouver. And I want to see Edmonton win. I would love to see Edmonton win this series. But Bouchard's great offensively. But who's their shutdown guy there? Ekholm and then Nurse, and then what else? Bouchard's not really a shutdown guy. He's a puck mover. He's a great puck mover at that. But I think when it becomes a war of attrition, I think Vancouver has the edge.
You guys kind of hit it, all the points I was going to try to say with this, because it's going to be incumbent on Pettersson to do better than he did in the first round, because he's been struggling, squeezing a little sawdust out of the stick. Been using that analogy a lot, that metaphor. But the other thing is, I think it's unfair to just say Stuart Skinner. You're right about it. It's got to come down to Ekholm and Nurse. You got to stop and slow down their offense and keep their top guys off the board. Because, by the way, while everybody is kind of got their focus on Pettersson not doing well, JT Miller had a pretty good first round, and so did Brock Besser. So I do have Edmonton in 6 in the series, because I can't be confident without Demko. So it's just how it is. And because I always say this, Edmonton is fine until they run into the team that can defend. Then they're screwed. And it happens all the time. Anthony, you got a couple more minutes?
Literally a couple. So if you have this Islander Bar Talk topic you're referencing to, throw it at me.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna put it ahead, and then we'll do all the intros and everything when you're out. So we are going to do a quick Bar Talk topic before doing the DraftKings announcement and such, because Anthony, I wanted to talk some Islanders with you, especially since you're our Islander guy. And You look at what the Islanders had on their top line this year. They used 8, count them, 8 right wings. I know it's out of order. I need to put this thing on there. This is what happens when we're pressed for time, everybody. They use 8 right wings. That is the most pressing need for their team in this offseason. First line right wing.
I mean, yeah, they used a lot of right wingers, and I think Bo Horvat on breakup day actually, referenced that it would be good if Lou can add someone not only to play with specifically him and Barzell, but just someone in general. I think they need more scoring in general. I mean, whether that's a left wing, a right wing. I mean, they really don't need any centerman, But so for that, I'll say Beer, because even if they got a good left winger, I don't really think it matters too much. You could put him on another line. So I think just another highly skilled top 6 forward would suffice. So I'll go Beer here. I mean, Lou Lamoriello has his work cut out for him. It's gonna be interesting to see what he does. He has about $6 million of cap space to work with. So we'll see. But one interesting thing he did say when he spoke, him and Wah spoke together. He said as far as changes goes, he's going to take the input from Patrick Wah, which I like to hear, because a lot of times, Lou Lamoriello likes to have all the power and kind of unilaterally make decisions. But it seems like he's going to work in partnership with Wah. And maybe that's a sign of in a year or two that when he leaves, maybe Wah will transition into a GM. But regardless, I like that Wah is going to have an input on what he wants him to do. So I trust Wah's hockey brain and his knowledge, and he's the coach of the team. He should get what he wants. So I'm excited for what the offseason brings. But yeah, I think they need more scoring, right wing, left wing. To me, it doesn't really matter. So be it. But Beer overall.
All right. Phil, what do you think? There it is. All right. Phil, you're muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, I had been saying that. I don't know how I got muted there. I didn't press anything.
I couldn't unmute you.
What?
I couldn't unmute you.
I don't know how that happened, but I didn't press anything. I have been saying this to my uncle for, I'd say at least like 15, 16 years now, that the Islanders need a top flight sniper. I've been saying it since they drafted Tavares. They needed a top flight sniper to go with them. And yeah, this is an absolute round. It's probably one of the bigger layups I think you've ever created.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how
layup by design on this one?
Oh yeah, by design. By design, Mark. Do the Islanders want to make the playoffs next year?
No, that was the New Year's resolution one. That was a mistake.
Does Mark Williams want to avoid being sent down to small apple hockey? Yeah, I mean, we're getting to that level of layup there, bud. So
before I go, the one thing I'll say is, and this is just, it's not any info I found out. It's just something that I could see happening, reading some tea leaves. I know Nikolai Ehlers' future in Winnipeg is kind of in doubt. He's got 1 year left. Some of his comments he made on, exit day were maybe raised the eyebrow a little bit, but he's not like an elite sniper like Phil's, referring to. But I think adding a guy like Nikolai Ehlers, who has a lot of speed and can score goals, I think that might be a realistic add. I mean, you really won't give up the farm for him. And he's a skilled player that could finish. So I wouldn't be shocked if something like that was along the lines of Lou's thinking.
I don't think that really does a whole lot to help. Yeah, I mean, it helps to a point, but it's not really what they need. He's more of a playmaker than a goal scorer. I mean, you look at, and I'm not saying they need a guy who's going to put up Chris Kreider numbers where it looks like he's going for hockey Cy Young, but
Brad Boyce?
What's that?
Brad Boyce.
Brad Boyes. Brad Boyes is another one, yes, but like, why are they going to go for yet another player who is primarily more of a playmaker than a goal scorer? Horvat was the same way, more of a playmaker than a goal scorer outside of maybe 1 year. Barzal is more of a playmaker. When are you bringing in a sniper? When? And to me, Ehlers just not listen, if they go and make that move, good for them. Depending on what they give up, good for them. But I don't think it answers the question or addresses the real problem.
I by the way, this is an easy layup for me too, but I think they need to prioritize it. That should be first on his list. They should go find a right winger.
I'll talk to you
Anthony,
guys.
take it easy. That's why we wanted to get your input on this now. Thank you. But that's why they needed to make sure they got to prioritize this and get it done. Gotta, as my future wife says, gotta get it together because it's, yeah. And you know what? Why not?
How are they getting Marner? That would honestly, this would make a ton of sense for them. That's a game breaker. They need a game breaker. But who are they throwing at Toronto to get him?
Yeah, there really isn't an NHL ready player that's in there. You're going to need at least a budding NHL player that Toronto could look over and go, hey, we'll go with him. You're going to need at least a couple first round draft picks to try to make it, because and you're going to, if you're the team that's getting Marner, you want a contract in place. You don't want to get him and wonder, hey, is he going to leave after you gave up so much? Because sometimes you give up so much and then you end up going, well, what are we going to do with this player? Because that's going to come up in a few minutes, guys. So, Phil, it's a great question to go with on that. We're gonna get all that in a second, but first, everybody, we're gonna just hide this banner, and we're gonna get a message from DraftKings. And by the way, just to mention this, also last night I had a 3-pick parlay with DraftKings. It was a Chris Kreider anytime goal, a New York Rangers win, and McKinnon 4.5 shots. I bet the over on that one. I got the Kreider goal. I got the Rangers win. McKinnon had 4 shots. Ouch. All right. So anyway, guys, let's take the message for DraftKings, and it's officially off the Bar Talk. Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. Usually I'd say welcome back to Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk, but I guess we're going to use the words continuing. Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk, gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choices of drink. You so confident you're buying around, so a beer, or, oh, I need a shot. And of course, click the link below for Big Apple Hockey trucker hats and shirts that are available. Phil, we already went through the Islanders just rotating right wing spot. But let's go back to the Rangers. Igor Shesterkin, his 5th 40-save game for the New York Rangers in the playoffs. It's 3rd in their history. Mike Richter and Henrik Lundqvist both have more. This was said today on ESPN Radio, and I need to throw this out there for you. If the Rangers win the Cup, Igor Shesterkin vaults ahead of Henrik Lundqvist as the Rangers' greatest goaltender. And I know We're going to get two more names thrown out there in a second, but go ahead.
Shot. Why? How? Just because of one cup? He's played. All right. So he played a fraction of a season in 2020. He played in a shortened season in 2021. He had a Vezina in 2022 in his first actual full season. He had an up and down year last year and an up and down year this year. Like, no, the cup is not enough to get him over Lundqvist, who was the epitome of goaltending consistency for 15 years. And I'm not just saying that in the Rangers organization. He was the NHL epitome of goaltending consistency. Had he not gotten to lose all those games from that 2012-2013 lockout, he would have the NHL record for most consecutive 31 seasons. So,
And a bless you from that.
Allergies. Sorry, just still battling here. But it's you. How? Come on. How is this even a debate at this point? You'd have to wait for at least, I would say, another 10 years to see if he even gets close to that. Jesus, I need to stop, man.
Yeah.
But thank you all for in the chat. Appreciate you. But how are we getting this? You can't even discuss this right now. There's not enough time. There's not enough of a body of work to even say this. Oh, it just, I don't know.
Look, I'm going right back where you are. Shot.
Suggesting this?
A what?
ESPN Radio is suggesting this?
No, it was discussed on the Rick DiPietro show. Somebody brought it up, and I gotta stop you. Stop everybody right there. Hell no. Henrik Lundqvist played with some of the least talented Ranger lineups of all time, and I understand the 2015 team won the President's Trophy. Clearly not the Stanley Cup, everybody. And 2012 they were the number one ranked team, and he went to a finals in 2014. But he never had a lineup that's as dynamic as this one. That had, he had Jágr that had the all-time Rangers point record his first year, and then never came close to that ever again. He had Panarin in his final year, and even at that, it was mostly Shesterkin taking over, and David Quinn just completely not using him. Lundqvist has played with some of the least talented Ranger lineups you could ever find. Hell, I'm trying to think of what's his name. Christensen, was it Eric Christensen?
Eric Christensen, yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of the guys they relied on to be a goal scorer for them in the 2010 or 2011 era. And it's just like, you got to be kidding me. And granted, he had Marian Gaborik. Let me see if I can. Jágr, Gaborik, and Nash all scored 40 goals during his time there. And obviously, Zibanejad in his final year, but again, he wasn't used as much. No, Henrik Lundqvist just went. He was the backbone of that team, and he had to constantly keep it to 2-1 to 3-2. Fortunately for Shesterkin, he is that talented, and maybe we could judge that at the end of his career. Can't judge it right now. That is for sure. Phil, we're gonna move on, and I gotta go with one of the sound bites of the weekend, which I would play it for you right now, but I'm just going to go ahead and go with the quote. Sheldon Keefe on the Game 7 Toronto Maple Leafs loss. When teams play the Leafs, they set up the game so the Leafs beat themselves. I just rolled my eyes when I saw that and when I heard that. Toronto should part ways with Sheldon Keefe.
Another massive layup in the other direction. It's around. So from what I'm gathering from this quote and the way that I would look at it in a logical perspective, isn't this a self-own?
Yeah.
Like, it's for me, that's the way I look at it. If teams are planning for Toronto to beat themselves and they're successful, what is that saying about the coaching staff? You know this and you're not prepared for it, and it continues to happen? you continue to blow game sevens. I mean, I just, this is really, no, not that. The double round, yeah. But this was the comment that I wanted to highlight. Its translation is, I got outcoached. And I can't, I mean, when Steve Dangle is ready to drive Marner and Keefe to the airport, you know that it's bad, because Steve Dangle is usually the biggest Leafs homer there is.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't believe that Sheldon Keefe would say something like that. Like, I don't know how he hasn't been fired already. Like, that's an embarrassment to the organization. That's an embarrassment to yourself. Keefe is somehow worse than Gallant. Yeah, he is. He is. And no, the Rangers do not want Marner, so let's not even go there. But I find it insane that Sheldon Keefe could say something like this about himself and indict himself in this manner, and he still has a job with the organization. If they don't fire him, and there is not a massive organizational change, whether it's Marner being dealt, Tavares being moved, I would move Marner in an instant. This guy does not show up in playoffs. He just doesn't. If they don't do something massive to make massive changes, then I don't think Toronto will ever learn. I really don't. If they're not doing it after this, and I said this was their last chance. I said if they lost early, this was their last chance. They lost early. Something has to change now.
Phil, I heard this. I mean, I've said this before, that for me there are certain moments where I would just fire somebody on the spot. And I go back to Jack Capuano, Game 7 versus the Washington Capitals, getting 11 shots in a Game 7. I don't care if Franz Nielsen was able to score to get one of them in. 11 shots in a do-or-die game. You couldn't figure out a way to get shots. So let's get to this one. He said this on the podium. There is video footage of him saying this. I will splice it into the long version of this video, or maybe the short one. But I got to tell you, this is one of the dumbest statements I've ever heard somebody say. He basically is resigning. As soon as he got off the podium, if I was Brendan Shanahan, I not only would have fired him, I would have punched him in the face. What a stupid statement. Oh, it's set up for the Leafs to beat themselves. Okay. Well, if they're set up to beat yourselves, why aren't you making adjustments? What are you trying to sit there and go, hey, you know what? It's set up so that way we have to, well, we're the problem. So how are we going to be the problem if we were the solution? I don't even know where to go with this. Like, what is he trying to say? Besides, duh. It's not my fault, but it kind of is.
You just reminded me of that 90s song, that da.
Yeah, I mean,
I could see, I just need Sheldon Keefe talking with that song in the background now, because it just encapsulates how stupid this quote is. And I mean, punching him in the face, a little extreme, but maybe Keefe needs a slap upside the head, because you can't indict yourself as a complete incompetent malcontent, I guess. Because I mean, what kind of coach just airs himself out like that?
Well, because here's the thing, Phil. This is why I got to push. I got to yell about this. What was the biggest tirade of last year's playoff of any team that exited? Rick Bowness. Rick Bowness, who's one of the most respected men in hockey, who's reportedly going to be retiring very soon. We could go into that in a little bit. But he came out, whipped his team a new one, and look at the season that they put up there. And you know what? He basically, Sheldon Keefe ain't getting a job next year. And if he is, it's an assistant, because it's not anything. And what team would hire him right now? Is that a comment that after he gets fired, and he will, the New Jersey Devils are going to go, hey, you know what? We should have him coach Jack Juuse.
Oh, jeez. If New Jersey picked Sheldon Keefe up, man,
I mean,
that would be real bad for them.
Right. And look, I mean, there's never mind. We'll talk about Travis Green getting the job later, because in Ottawa in a little bit. It's not one of the Bar Talk topics because we got to go back to one of my favorites in a minute. But Phil, this is one of the dumbest comments I've ever heard anybody ever say. And yes, the word self-own is in there. Because after all, Ranger Central.
I'm sorry, I have to highlight this comment before.
Go ahead.
Big Daddy Dubois.
You know what the great part is? Granny, you couldn't have picked a better time to say that one. Because Philk, Pierre-Luc Dubois, 16 goals,
Wow.
40 points on the season. He was down from 63. Here is his AAV, 8.5 million through 30-31, and they're asking Rob Blake they will whether or not they'll buy him out. He says they will not buy him out, but he doesn't rule out a trade. This is going to be a funny one. The LA Kings should keep PLD. I'll let you start because I'm fired up and I can't wait to get on this. And it's not the answer you expect.
I think I have an idea of what your answer is going to be.
I don't know. I don't know if you do.
I think I'm going to just show. You don't have to answer this, but I'm going to predict your answer right now. You're going to say they should keep him. I think they should also keep them because I don't think they're going to get an offer that is going to come anywhere near what Rob Blake would value for him right now. I just think his value is so low that every offer that they get is going to be a complete low ball. Oh, let's hope he has a change of scenery type of deal. They may even be asking retained salary in that deal, like $1 to $2 million in salary. And I just don't think that's going to work out for LA. I also think that they have to give him more than 1 year to figure things out in LA. I mean, I don't think he looked good at all. I don't think he's the answer there, but that's also a team that's closer to a rebuild than it is competing. And I think this year proved that. And as much respect as I have for Anze Kopitar and Drew Doughty and the way that the levels that they're still playing at their ages, that ship is obviously sinking. And unless they somehow decide to give up all their young prospect depth and go all in, I don't see how they win a cup anytime soon. So you can go and you can build around Byfield and Kempe and some of the other young talents that they have, but I just don't see Pierre-Luc Dubois working out there. But you do have to give him more than 1 year, and you're going to have to hope that value rises up because any offer that they get this offseason, it's going to be terrible. It really is.
So first, that's around for you, right? They got to keep him?
Yeah, it's got to be around for me.
Phil, it's been 4 years. I guess you know me way too well. Yes, you have to keep him. You have to keep him. Oh, my God. What a stupid decision. Speaking about things that if that happened, if Rob Blake decided he was going to buy him out of his contract to avoid being in there the next 7 years, Rob Blake, again, should be fired on the spot and punched in the face and the ovary right in the baby maker, as they say it in Anchorman. What a stupid, stupid folly that would be. Because you just traded Gabriel Velarde, Rasmus Campari. I'm missing a guy right now. Aaron Iafallo, was that the other one?
I follow.
I follow, yeah. And a draft pick. So 4 assets you dealt for a guy that everybody in the league knows is a malcontent. I understand I don't know the guy, but you can read the tea leaves. Nobody wants to be around him. He is not locker room cancer. I don't know what he's like Ebola, flesh-eating virus, every single terminal illness you can name. But like he is everything. And you know what? Guys like that, just because he's talented, doesn't mean he should be on your team. Like Josh Hosang looks at this guy and goes, "Can you be a bit of a team player?" I mean, it is unbelievable. And then they're gonna just buy him. The thought of just buying him out, or they're going to try to trade him. This is
You know
pennies
what,
on the
though?
dollar.
He has a
You're
no
going to figure out how to do
movement
this.
He has a no movement clause that kicks in after this season. So they're going to have to move. If they want to move him, they have to move him at the draft.
And by the way, Phil,
That's a thing that we haven't taken into account. And I haven't seen anybody mention it in the chats either. So they may have to be forced to take a lowball type deal in order to deal him. Oh my God!
But again,
jeez.
But again, Phil, this is horrible. You're wedded to this guy.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball, because there's just a massive wrench that just got thrown into everything.
Yeah, it's and trust me, right now it's Steve the Pirate taking it off the face and having to wear the eye patch. That's what it sounds like.
Hey, there's Steve the Pirate.
There's a guy on a team named the Pirate. That's Pirate.
No, I was referencing when he said it at the end to Dwight, and Dwight looks at him like, "Are you kidding me right now?"
That's still one of the greatest one-off jokes that they just threw in there at the end of that movie. But Phil, this is a disaster. This is an absolute disaster. And look, sometimes people want to be an absolute butthead, or I want to say asshole. Fine, I'll just say asshole. Everybody wants to be an asshole and start patting themselves on the back when they get it right. Because I did. Anyway.
Knew that was coming.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm just as bad as PLD.
Just letting you know, Marc has probably had that in his pocket for about 6 months now. So just let Marc have his little moment there.
I am going to have that moment so great. Because I got to tell you, Antonio Brown's looking at this guy and going, hey, can you not be such a character? Tone it down a little bit. Anyway, let's go to a guy that a team is trying to keep and the one that they actually like. Barry Trotz is saying, I know Juuse Saros wants to be here, and we are going to be working very hard to keep him. Saros has one more year in his deal, Phil, and Askarov is knocking on the door. Juuse Saros will play out his contract in Nashville.
I don't think Nashville wants to take a step back. I think they're inspired by what they got out of that team and out of Andrew Burnett. So I think he eventually will re-sign in Nashville. I actually not re-sign, but he'll play out the contract. I'm sorry. I think that they're going to probably move him very late if they do move him. But you could get quite a bit for him, and Askarov is, I think, ready. I think he's ready. It's just a matter of when they want to pull the trigger on it. I personally would trade him this offseason. I would. I think you could get a haul for him. And I think there's going to be teams that are going to line up for him. New Jersey, will be there. They will be there. The Leafs will be there. Edmonton, I think, will be there. I get they have Stuart Skinner, but you can't tell me that with McDavid and Draisaitl and having to do everything that you can to keep both of them, that you wouldn't make the move to go get Saros to help boost your team over the top. I think it ends up happening that he ends up playing out most of the deal. I'm going to have to say Beer, just because I think at some point he does get moved. I don't know when. I don't know if it's a deadline deal. I don't know if it's the draft this summer. I don't know if it's during free agent season. But I do feel like they know that Askarov is ready. It's just a matter of when. And can they get a veteran goaltender to back up Askarov? Like a decent veteran backup. Because they're going to want to go a 1A, 1B with that and just make sure that they have some sort of security blanket in the event that Askarov fails.
This is so difficult for me, having been to Nashville games. A friend of mine lives out there, and he's going to be 30 by the time his next contract comes up. He has at the end of 2025. Philk, it's Nashville has done great or had great timing moving goaltenders out throughout the history of their franchise, whether it was moving Mike Dunham out and then Dan Ellis took over, and then moving him out, Pekka Rinne took over. I'm probably missing somebody in the middle right there, so forgive me, Nashville fans. And then you get Juuse Saros, who comes in as Rinne is starting to fade out. He's still in his prime, and I think they could both get a boatload for him, and they can keep him and have like a 40 game split with him and Askarov, or a 50-50 split. I mean, I should have just said that. But Nashville could take a step forward while acquiring something. I just don't know if I want to just trust all of that to a rookie goaltender. And Askarov is looking like he's going to be that good. And can you imagine yet another good Russian goaltender in this league? Then, I mean, that's just unbelievable. I am actually going to go beer as well. It sucks, Phil, because I also can't help but look at it and go, if you deal him, it's got to be at the draft. That's the way I see that.
Yeah.
It's harder to deal a goalie in season. And I think they need to.
You know what? I don't think they have to do it at the draft, actually. I think it can be done in the offseason. I think it has to be done before the season starts if they're going to do it. And the reason I say that is because they can use that as an ace up their sleeve for what's probably not going to be a great goaltending market. You wonder if Anaheim is ready to deal John Gibson. Because I think Lucas Dostal's ready. I do. And I think if you go and that's another thing. I think if you go and you get a veteran backup and you let Dostal just kind of break into the league and not have to worry about winning every damn night, I think he can develop that way. Yes, he's going to take some losses. Yes, there are going to be nights where he lets up a lot of goals. But I think Dostal is good enough to have those nights where he just stands on his head and you're looking at him like, wow, like this kid really is the future. And you want him to grow with that core. I think it's the same thing in Nashville. And I think Nashville has an even better support system because their defense corps as a unit is talent-wise is as good as almost any in the league with guys like McDonough, Josi, Fabro, Carrier. They have a bunch of guys that are just excellent defenders. So I do agree with Firestorm here. Getting a Gibson or a Saros won't fix glaring defensive issues with teams like Toronto and Jersey. Yes, I totally agree with you there, Firestorm. But at the same time, it can mask some of them a bit, and it can help the overall team defense. And that's why those teams will probably pay a premium to get someone like Gibson or Saros. And that's why I think those deals, if they happen, need to happen in the offseason. You can't do it midseason.
I'm always reminded, by the way, Phil, of a quote from Grant Fuhr that's if a pitcher makes a mistake, he's got 7 fielders behind him. If a quarterback makes a bad throw, the wide receiver can adjust. If a goalie makes a mistake, it's a goal. And I think that's why you talk about guys like John Gibson and Juuse Saros as the guys that they're going to come in, they'll just make the save. It's that easy. They make the saves. They don't need to be spectacular, and they make the routine saves. You don't get many of those. I wish you had that back. Well, there's a couple times where that happened. Well, Phil, speaking of the draft, their San Jose Sharks won the lottery. No teams moved positions this year in the draft lottery. That was a little bit weird. But, I mean, it kind of proves that the lottery is not all fixed all the time. But the Sharks set the draft Macklin Celebrini, and they had the worst record in the NHL this year. Phil, give them till 2028. The Sharks will be a playoff team.
Beer, their forward group has some good core pieces in it. Like if you add Celebrini, I think the pick's going to be Celebrini. Celebrini's been the one that's been talked to as the consensus number one for about 2 years now. But yeah, I like Celebrini. I like Will Smith. I like William Eklund. I like the fact that David Quinn's gone. I mean, now you don't have him there trying to ruin Macklin Celebrini. And you know the funny part about that is Celebrini, to me, is one of the most well-rounded prospects I've seen in a while. Like, he's got dynamic, like, skating and skill, but he's also a very smart defensive player. This is a guy you can build around. I wonder what his point ceiling is going to be at, whether he's like an 80-point guy or so, or maybe a 90-point guy. I'm not sure if he's a 100-point guy one day or not, but I definitely see this guy as somebody that you can build around as a first-line center and just a great all-around two-way player. Really, really good. His defensive smarts are very advanced for someone his age, and that's. And I'm not going to sit there and tell you that I've watched all of his games, but I've watched enough to formulate a good opinion on him. And to me, honestly, out of all the top end talents that were considered like number one picks and so on, and guys that were near the top of the draft, I mean, his defensive acumen is one of the best I've seen for someone up at that level. So, I don't know about playoffs in 2028. I mean, it depends on who they draft afterwards. They lack defense. They lack goaltending. I don't know if they get it that quickly. But again, they could go ahead and they can add other players. Who's to say that they don't turn around and trade for Mitch Marner? Not that I think that they would do it, but who's to say they don't make a move like that in a year or two? I don't know. I think we're looking too far ahead to say that it's a definite either way. I got to go beer.
Yeah, I think the answer on that is beer too, only because there's still a lot left that Mike Greer has got to tear down with this franchise. And for a lot of people that want to just say, oh, Mike Greer got fleeced on this deal or that deal. He didn't get fleeced on Karlsson. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
If people want to go, his number one job with Karlsson, with Brent Burns, who Brent Burns is still a hell of a player. Carolina's got a good player, and we'll talk a little bit about the playoffs one more time in your Q&A in a second, guys. But his number one job was to get those guys off the salary cap. If he can somehow work magic and get Marc-Edouard Vlasic off, there's another one. And I think this is just a team that needs a total teardown. Are they going to be ready in 4 years to play in April? I don't know.
Anaheim did land a top 2 pick. They got it last year.
Yeah,
and they
William
got
Karlsson.
Not
William Karlsson. Not the other. What's Karlsson's last name?
Leo Carlson.
Who?
Leo Carlson?
Leo Carlsson. I accidentally said William Karlsson.
No, Leo Carlson.
Yeah, Leo Carlsson. Thank you. I blanked on his name for a second. But yeah, they had a top 2 pick last year, and they passed on. We all thought it was going to be Adam Fantilli, and instead, Leo Carlsson. So, and it looks like Anaheim might be loaded with young talent. They're going to be competing against with them. And also, by the way, Phil, going really quick back to Anaheim, this is the year you have to trade Gibson because you have to. We can lose with you, we can lose without you, as they said to Ralph Kiner in the contract negotiations back in the 40s. But in this particular case, I think they can have a turnaround. Maybe if they could get veterans in, they got 4 years to do it. Celebrini should be hitting his stride by then. William Eklund, real good looking forward. He had over 40 points this year. Let's see what Will Smith does when they gets there. Their defense core is going to be the question. That's the thing, because that not only are they tearing down their goaltending, Mackenzie Blackwood isn't really going to be the answer long term. But I think they still have Vanacek. No, he's not going to be the answer either. But I mean, It'll be interesting to see what moves Greer has to make, because now he's gonna start shifting from rebuild, a total teardown, to now actually rebuilding. So let's see when he starts adding pieces, what's going to happen. Guys, thanks for listening to the Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk. We gauge our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. Let's get to some of your comments and your questions. Phil, what do you got so far?
Let's see. Just going through some of these comments. Firestorm, Carlson and Gensel, two biggest overpays. I don't think Gensel was much of an overpay, really, to tell you the truth. When you look at the quality of prospects that they got from Gensel, I mean, Vasily Panomaryev was really the top prospect they got in that deal, and I'm not really overly sold on him, to be honest with you. I don't think they did that great of a job in that deal, and they didn't even get a guaranteed first-round pick. So I can't say that's an overpayment. It looks like it's a lot because there's a lot of quantity there, but the quality really lacks. There's no top-end prospects there. Yeah, that's really it. They didn't even give up a first. Not even a guaranteed first. But Evan's saying that San Jose has the first and the 14th overall. They already won the draft. No, it's not the case. You can get Celebrini, and Celebrini doesn't work out. I mean, or you could get that 14th pick, and they could reach for somebody, and it doesn't work out. I mean, we've seen that happen all the time. Look at Arizona. They reached for Daniil Boot when freaking Matvei Michkov was available. And everybody thought they were going to take Michkov.
No, Boot went first after Michkov. Shimashev was the guy that they took.
Oh, Simashev. Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mixed them up there, yeah. Simashev is the guy that Simashev wasn't even projected to go in the first half of the first round. He was a bottom half of the first round, borderline second round type guy. And Arizona went and took him at 6. Like, I mean, when you have your guy and your scouting staff has convictions about a guy, and it goes in all sports, by the way, they're going to take that guy because they see something in that guy that nobody else sees, and they want that guy, and they go and they take him. I mean, sometimes you'll find, instances where teams can trade down and still get their guy, but a lot of times teams are scared to let their guy go if they feel really that highly about it, because sometimes it ends up being like, I don't know, Vancouver with Bure, and that's how you end up with Lias Anderson and Vitaly Kravtsov. Thank God Gordy Clark is gone. That's all I can say, because the best draft that this franchise possibly may ever have was the first draft that he was no longer head of scouting in 2020. Just remember that. Out of that draft, you're looking at right now Lafreniere, Schneider, Will Cooley, Matt Rempe, and then you possibly also have Brett Berard and Dylan Garand. That could be 6 players that are key contributors for your team in the future.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know what Firestorm's saying right here. At least Anderson ended up giving us Cooley.
Yes.
But that's just, you also can't help but look at it and go, because wasn't Anderson supposed to be either Marty Necas or Nick Suzuki, the guys that went after him? I mean, the reason why sometimes you don't know what the player is going to be. But in this case, the reason why you second guess it is because they went drafting on need and what they thought they had, and it's not the right philosophy. Draft the talent because you don't know when they're going to get there.
Okay, and that's a fair point. They may have gotten Necas or Suzuki, but with that, if it's Suzuki, do they get Trocheck?
No.
And Vinny Trocheck right now is one of the top scorers in the entire playoffs. He's 2 points off of being 2 points per game. He just matched Rangers history last night with that goal. Like, I mean, I got to say this. Nick Suzuki's a great player, and many teams would love to have him, I'm not going to lie. But Nick Suzuki is in Montreal putting up nice numbers in Montreal on a team that's not a playoff team. Vincent Trocheck put up career-high numbers helping Artemi Panarin get to career heights in New York. Things happen for a reason.
Yeah, and I know it's going to be hard for people to say. Right now, the Rangers have 3 good candidates for the Conn Smythe. If they got that far, if the playoffs ended today, because Zibanejad, Trocheck, and Shesterkin are all in there. And yes, Rob Thomas would be great. By the way, Coolio Top Notch, welcome to the show. That's my first time seeing your comment, so great having you on. And yeah, that's why you go to Phil for the draft stuff. I'm usually better breaking it down after the draft and after I can see a body of work.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Thomas would be great, but again, do you have Vincent Trocheck if you have Robert Thomas? I don't know if you have that.
Yeah,
and it just everything changes. It's almost like the butterfly effect. If you ever seen that movie, you go back, you change one thing, everything changes. And Christy, I honestly, I was pretty in tune. I don't think they were ever really in on Danault. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they were ever in on him because they already had Strome and they just didn't have the cap space to give another center that much money.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And who's got the 35 minutes for forward right now?
Trocheck, I think.
Trocheck? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the overtime kind of changed around that. The Rangers went with 11 forwards in overtime, and Carolina went with 9.
Yeah.
As Ray Farrar pointed out. And we all know the one forward that sat. So, I mean, that tells you about the Rangers' depth, and that's the reason why I think overtime isn't going to bother them.
No.
I still think, Phil, Carolina's going to have their best game of the series tomorrow night.
I think they're going to come out with their best effort, too. That's the thing I would think about. But, I mean, the one thing that I look at, and I said this before the start of the series, was that Carolina plays that balls to the wall, pedal to the metal style. And can they sustain that for over 90 games in a season? And now you're asking them to do that and then run 9 forwards in the third period and overtime too. Like, I that's got to wear and tear on them. It's got to, and they play physical. So, I mean, I'm with you on this, John. In Laviolette we trust. We'll be ready. You know what? You weather that storm, and you get out of that first 10 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes, and it's tied, or they're only down by 1, or they have the lead. I think they could win that game and take game 3.
Firestorm, I got to disagree with you on this one. Laviolette had no problem going to Goudreau and Vesey.
No, he didn't. Goudreau and Vesey were out there. So it's not the fourth line that they're afraid of using. It's Matt Rempe. It's and you got to wonder. And Vince Mercagliano brought this up today for anybody who's following Vince, and it's a good point. If you're going to use Matt Rempe for 4 minutes in a game, when does the discussion happen on when to insert Filipino?
Yeah,
because it's got to be coming if they're going to use him that little.
And after all, as Johnny Lazarus was saying on NHL radio the other day, that there's probably something more physically wrong with Hedl, but we'll see about that.
Wait, he said there's something physically wrong?
Yeah, there might be something that they're not letting us know. Or maybe it's just you don't want to
change
know around
about
winning
that.
lineup.
So why is he in a full contact session then?
That's a great question.
That's really what I want to know. I want to know. If it's not Hedl, give me Big Adam Edstrom, because he could be such a difference maker in those minutes. You put him on that fourth line with Goudreau and Vesey, forget about it.
Yeah,
that gives you another big physical skater with a ton of size and a good amount of skill that can skate with those Carolina forwards. And he's good defensively. I still, you know what? I have to stop myself because this comment that I do think that State of Survival is right about this. Said this last night. I think Fox is playing with something. I want nothing to do with Brodzinski. No, thank you.
Brodzinski is a 15th forward.
He is I would rather go to Hedl before him. I almost would rather go to Blake Wheeler. And I'm not a fan of inserting Blake Wheeler in this series because I think Blake Wheeler is just way too slow especially after a major injury, which he missed God knows how many months.
I do think if you put in Edstrom over Rampe, his overall game is a little bit better, and he doesn't have the reputation that Rampe has been having. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing. All right, guys, we're only going for about another 5 more minutes. I've got to get some salmon in the oven in a moment, and not wait for that. But so we're gonna be getting that in, and let's see if anybody else has any more time on.
It dawned on me.
No, it's all right. Don't worry about it. And okay, wait. John Radigan saying, do you see Robrek last night for the Oshawa Generals game 7? I actually did not. I would love to see that. I've been trying to catch up as much on him as possible because I'm always you know what, I like to see about some of these prospects that the Rangers got coming up. What do I like to season my salmon with? Jesus, what was that? What do I like to season my salmon with? That's a great question. Actually, Maria's real good at just whatever she decides to put on there. If it's me by myself when I was pathetic and alone, I would say it was probably just Old Bay.
What's wrong with being single?
No.
Absolutely nothing.
Well, I was saying I was pathetic and alone.
Okay, fine.
That's a different story. Okay. Yeah, geez. I know, Patrick, what the hell? It's what happens when you read too much. Granny's got a mighty meatloaf that she's got going in. And Chris, I understand what you mean. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Go right ahead with what you got going. But by the way, this is also salmon that's crab stuff. So what would you guys actually put on that? That's why Old Bay is always a good one. Going to this, yeah, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Keep going. But you know they're going to make adjustments. And Comtois being in the lineup instead of Kuznetsov, that, you know, already Brindamore's starting to reach for things. I heard something in the ESPN broadcast about Kuznetsov saying this might be his last shot in the NHL. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. So I think he'll find out with somebody. Yeah, it's semen and sandwiches. Garlic and soy sauce is amazing. Huh. There we go. Hartford versus Providence game on 3. Phil, you missed a top tier Marc mess up.
Oh God, what did you do?
The statement from Dave was, what do I like to season my salmon with?
Oh,
and I combined 2 words to say, what do I like semen? And then I stopped it to go, no.
Woof.
Oh, jeez. By the way, Jay is saying this one. If the New York Rangers go all the way, what will this say about Drury, the forgotten man in all this? Phil, I think this is a great topic of conversation. I see it's my salmon with steak. That's a good one, Anthony. Let's go back to this question real quick, because Phil, you look at Chris Drury last year. He makes the trades for the big guns, brings in Tarasenko, and Mikko to a lesser extent, brings back Tyler Mott. All the fans and everyone was expecting that. Brings in Patrick Kane. This year, it's not as star-filled, and he's having a lot more success with a coach that is much better. What does this say, though, about Chris Drury if the Rangers do manage to finish this off?
It says that he made the right move in Peter Laviolette. And it says he made the right move in taking a little more of a conservative approach at the deadline. You're looking at reasons to why this team is so much better than last year's team, and why they had the record-setting season that they had, and why they have the resiliency that they have. It started, like you said earlier on, it started in training camp. Peter Laviolette came in and laid everything out there to them. He told them exactly what was needed to win it all. The guy's done it before. He's been to the top of the mountain. He's taken 3 different teams to the finals, won once. He's one of a rare few coaches that can say that they do that, and that they've done that. He's also up there in all-time NHL wins. But Chris Drury made the right decision bringing him in. To me, I was saying it was a no-brainer. And people were talking about Keefe. That's funny. Carberry was another one that they were talking about. We were talking about Knobloch was even brought up. And
With good reason on Knobloch.
Kudos to Chris Knobloch. Not a shot at him, but just wasn't the right guy in the right time. I told everybody on here, on Twitter, wherever, said they were going to hire a coach with experience. And I told you that they were leaning towards Laviolette. And that's before I even got that scoop that they were actually hiring. But
And he was in the building. Yeah.
yeah, that he was in the building. Yeah. But I told you that they wanted to bring in somebody that had the idea to win it because they had to. They were looking to win. You couldn't bring in new blood at that point. The forgotten man is Gorton. I mean, Gorton.
Forgotten for a good reason.
Yeah, I would say he's forgotten for a very good reason, D-Rod. That Trouba contract is just horrendous. That
David Quinn would still be here.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'm not going to stop saying I told you because I did say it, and I had people yelling at me saying, "Oh, Laviolette, he's a retread. Why would they do that?"
And remember what I said last year at this time. Look at the Stanley Cup Finals. Paul Maurice is the retread of all retreads.
Yeah.
And he's in the Stanley Cup Final, and he can get back there again this year. So everybody just, this is the reason why we'll do the pats on our backs every now and again.
I knew they weren't hiring John Hines. John Hines was, I think they were just doing their due diligence to see what he could have offered, but I don't think that they ever had the interest. I know for a fact that he didn't get a third interview because the third interview was the hiring. So he may have came in for a second one, but yeah, I don't think that he was ever really their guy.
Yeah. By the way, just to answer this one with DP, because we've discussed this a little bit. What are the odds?
Don't get greedy.
Sweep the whole thing?
Game by game.
Yeah. Take it game by game. Let me also tell you this. 0. No. It doesn't happen in NHL on the Xbox or PlayStation because nobody plays that.
Oh, I thought he meant series. He's talking about all 16.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, no.
The Gretzky Oilers didn't do it. The Avalanche that went 16-3 and sorry, that was 16. That was 12-3 to get there. It was 16-5 is still one of the more impressive runs. And yet, no.
The 2012 LA Kings.
They were equally. Actually, that's probably even more impressive because the 2000. Phil, how about this? In the 1-8 format, only one team played the 6, 7, and 8 seed, and that was the 2012 New York Rangers. In the other side of it, only 1-8 seed ever played 1, 2, and 3, and that was the 2012 LA Kings. So, I mean, and they were impressive. They were unbelievable. And that's one of the most magical runs I've ever seen ever with any team. But I think the identity of this team wouldn't have changed if the Artemi Panarin incident with Tom Wilson didn't happen and the Gorton/Davidson firing has happened. And by the way, say what you will, Gordon's got a good base. It looks like it might be good in Montreal. Davidson has done no favors to 12-2 in the first 3 rounds. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable run. Just how you go 3 rounds and only lose 2 games. They swept the second series, and then they made quick work of the Coyotes, who'd gotten to the conference finals for the only time ever. That was crazy.
Well, actually, they went to because they were up 3-0, and then I think they won that one in 5. I think they won that one in 5. Yeah.
They beat. I didn't say they swept Arizona. I said they beat them in 5. It was the second round that they won and that they swept.
Yeah, that was
St. Louis. They swept St.
Yep.
Louis. St. Louis was a real good team that year too.
and they
They finished first in the Central. They had 109 points, and LA swept that team.
that was that team that everybody kind of looked at and went, I can't believe this run that they're on. If they won their final game, they would have gotten the 3 seed. Instead, they lost and got the 8th seed. So sometimes just seeding is what matters. And they got all the favorable matchups that really benefited them. And look, Sutter knows how to coach. But back to Drury, though. Drury's the one that kind of looked at the Wilson incident and said, no, we got to get tougher. And then he did. He almost went comically the other way. And since then, he's been tweaking and getting everything along. If they didn't hire Laviolette, we'd still be probably calling for his head.
Yeah.
About now. Tell him to go back to Little League and pitch.
Overcorrection with Drury, and that was from Dolan. Dolan really got involved. When you knew Dolan gets involved, extreme things start to happen. Like I remember last season, right before that St. Louis game, all the reporters were reporting that James Dolan was actively watching the Rangers. And basically what that meant was that if they would have lost that St. Louis game after losing that Chicago game in the helmet throw, Gallant would have been fired midseason. That would have been the firing, and they wouldn't have been able to get Laviolette at that point because they would have had an interim, and he was still in Washington at that point. So great hire though to get Laviolette. It's just everything he's done has just been the right buttons. There was so much backlash about Trouba and Miller as a pairing. He split them up and put Miller and Schneider together, and Miller and Schneider have been just an absolute revelation together. And I don't care what the analytics say. Oh, the analytics say that Miller and Trouba were actually the better pairing. And yeah, that's great. How are you coming to that conclusion? A bunch of shot-based analytics? The results tell you otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go with what that other pairing is. And like I said before, it does make the Trouba thing better. Oh boy. Oh, Phil, get ready for this one. And just we're about to set up. We got Anthony and the hot tub.
Oh my God. What is this? Kevin Weeks.
I like to bring some comedic purpose to this show, so I figure why not.
Oh, how about that, Anthony? I mean,
how about that is right.
Yeah. Love Anthony's hot tub talk.
Why not? I mean, hey, listen, you guys were still on, so why not little pop in?
Big Apple Hockey is an OnlyFans now.
Oh man.
Oh man. I think Tony would love that.
Yeah. Oh no. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm being very sarcastic about that, obviously.
Yeah, I know. That's good stuff.
John Radigan asked this: since the 67 expansion, what coach not named Arbor or Bowman is definitively better than Laviolette?
I can't say Trotz is definitively better, just because I think in terms of coaching wins, I think there's a very good chance that Laviolette passes him. By the time
I'm going to go Quenneville.
What about Babcock?
You could say Babcock. He'll never get another job again.
Quenneville? Yeah, Joel Quenneville.
Yeah.
I mean, coaching wins all time right now is it. I'm just trying to look this up. It's coaches. No, this is not.
What's with the Mark Salmon mess up that I was commenting on?
I had combined semen and salmon together as I was saying it and reading it.
Oh, man.
Sorry, seasoned in salmon, and it came out as semen.
Marc. Oh, my God.
I guess that contributes to the OnlyFans.
Oh, man. Peter Laviolette right now, regular season-wise, is at 807. Barry Trotz is at 914. Barry Trotz is probably never coaching again. Laviolette's got at least a few more seasons in him. Laviolette, for me, you ask me, has a chance at 1,000. And Quenneville's never coaching again. So when Laviolette's all said and done, he could end up being second all time. Maurice is still going right now, too. But I don't know how Florida's going to be in a few years.
Age-restricted apple hockey.
I can barely hear Anthony.
Yeah, having trouble hearing you on that one, Ant. But we're actually gonna sign off here, guys. We said it was good. We're gonna go to 7:20. Right now, 7:35. You don't make the club in the tub. Someone turn on the 70s porno music.
Oh my God, really?
Bow chicka wow wow. By the way, Ken Hitchcock. Christy threw that out there. Ken Hitchcock, hell of a coach.
Yeah, his success has been really kind of up and down between teams, and it's also a lot of that is not great after his Dallas run and his Philadelphia run.
He went to the conference finals with both St. Louis and
John Cooper.
John Cooper.
Cooper is a guy that he just doesn't have the wins yet. Like he doesn't have the total wins. But I mean, it's very hard to argue against John Cooper. It really is.
Well, as they said, Hooper drives the boat in Jaws. I know
Cooper's 27th right now with 525 wins. He's far back.
Yeah. I mean, I would say Quenneville is the guy I would say is better than Laviolette, only because the Blackhawks were a powerhouse with him, and he just seemed to always make the right choices. Guys, you should hit the like button. Anthony's in the hot tub right now.
That's what Granny said. Hit the like button.
We went from 45 to 96. Look at that. I think it was Marc. It was all Marc talking about semen that got everyone ripped up.
Oh yeah, but except I was talking about Alexander Seaman. Oh no, that's not right either.
Oh man.
Oh, Marc.
All right, guys.
Can we just put a muzzle on Marc?
Yeah.
Hence why I need to get off. Everybody, thank you very much for joining us. We should have another stream either Friday afternoon covering the Thursday night game or maybe even Thursday night, depending when we get out. But great show today, and look forward to seeing you guys next week.